Did Ryan Poles have too much loyalty to Matt Eberflus? Our general manager is a hot topic this week as fans are looking for someone else to blame now that Eberflus has been fired, and the natural target seems to be Ryan Poles. This is something that as fans we simply do not know what goes on behind the scenes, and most people are just jumping to conclusions or commenting on speculation. We don't even know how much of a hand Ryan Poles really had in hiring Matt Eberflus. The fact of the matter is, Eberflus interviewed before we hired Ryan Poles. We also have rumors that Poles wanted to fire Flus last year, and that Poles might not be happy with the dynamic of reporting to Kevin Warren. There are a lot of rumors and speculation that I wanted to briefly address. Also, I wanted to talk about whether or not Ryan Poles had too much loyalty to Matt Eberflus. Let's go ahead and get right into it. I think a lot of people forget that as fans, we never really get the full story. I think a lot of people forget that as fans, most of the time, we never really hear the full story and are left to speculate on what really goes on behind closed doors. The national media loves to spread false information too, which makes it even worse. But we don't know if Poles wanted to fire Flus last year or not. We don't know if Poles wanted to hire Flus in the first place, but we do know they became friends over the last 3 years. As far as knowing what happened behind the scenes, though, we have no idea. There are multiple reports from Hallis Hall that Ryan Poles wanted to fire Eberflus last year, but someone above him was against the move. Whether that was Kevin Warren or George McCaskey, nobody knows, but at this point, it's just a rumor. And you always have to take those with a grain of salt. And this one's just simply not cut and dry. I myself wanted to fire Eberflus last year, but I also agreed that it wasn't fair. His first season, he had no chance. We had 90 plus million in dead cap space and a depleted roster. Last year, the roster was upgraded, but not enough for us to turn into contenders overnight. Eberflus had the team playing tough football, and we were a top 10 defense the second half of the season after getting Montez Sweat. You have to give him credit for that. It's debatable, but I do think Eberflus did enough to earn another season. This is a hot topic, and there's no real easy answer. I still wanted Flus fired despite the fact that I thought it wasn't fair. I thought we needed to pair a new head coach with our rookie quarterback. It just made too much sense, and I didn't want to follow along the same cycle of firing a head coach 1 year after drafting a rookie quarterback. But here we are. And at the end of the day, we don't know whose decision it was, but there are some reports of dysfunction going on in our front office. There are reports that Ryan Poles wanted to fire Flus last year, but Kevin Warren said to give him another chance. And then there's a recent report from Waddle and Sylvie saying that Ryan Poles is unhappy with having to report to Kevin Warren, and also adding that he wouldn't have taken this job if he knew this was going to be the way things operated. If that's true, I would consider it horrible news, but for me, I do not believe it's true. I think it's simply a rumor. But let's remember when Ryan Poles took the job, he did report directly to the McCaskies. He didn't have to deal with Ted Phillips. After Kevin Warren was hired, that dynamic has changed. I've always seen it as a positive. I've seen Kevin Warren as a guy who could help Ryan Poles, give him another resource to lean on as far as business aspects, and oversee the new stadium being built. However, if those reports are true and Ryan Poles' hands are tied, then I do not like it. Right now, I don't believe it, but if it was true, I don't like it. We need a united front office, and Ryan Poles needs to not have his hands tied when it comes to making decisions. At the end of the day, I take that report with a grain of salt and mostly think it's clickbait, but you never know. And without knowing, it's impossible to speculate. I think people like to make up stories, especially for clicks, and might have overreacted to that press conference from last week with Ryan Poles and Kevin Warren. I did read so many comments saying that Poles looked defeated. Guys, look, I think Ryan Poles is an emotional guy, and he had just fired a good friend. To me, I do not believe he was defeated. After firing a friend, I'm sure that took a toll on him. And I'll say this much: I don't think we've ever had a general manager who understands the entire picture of roster building like Ryan Poles does. He's not perfect, but so far he's been very tactical with his selections, and he's found very good football players to build around. He needs to address the offensive line, and then he's on his way to building a powerhouse of a football team. They're extremely young and extremely talented, but these will not be the same Bears we've watched the last 15 plus years. Things really are different, and I believe Ryan Poles is a huge reason why. The biggest thing I want to see is our general manager not be handcuffed by upper management. Let him hire the next head coach and let him fix this offensive line. Let Ryan Poles cook. That's how I'm feeling today. Let me know how you guys are feeling. I always appreciate the comments and try to respond to as many as possible. Please remember to hit that like button for me. Stay tuned. And until next time, bear down.